let's go to probably the most controversial clips that we'll ever make on this podcast, and people are not going to be happy about it. But we are going to rank the past 10 national champions of college football against each other. There's going to be a ton of different factors. All of these lists were significantly different from when I made these graphics earlier today. And I am excited to hear from anybody in the comments that says something different, because they're a lot different list to list. So let's start with Jake. There they are in front of you, Jake. You have the floor to make your case. There is one crossover.
One of these I am not sure about, or two of these.
Well, to my defense, bad job on me. I didn't put a ton of research into it. Didn't put a lot of thought into it. First of all,
yeah,
I'll let you
come
take
on.
it. JP,
everybody just turning this off.
What's your gripe with me? What's your one
Georgia,
gripe with me?
2021 and Georgia at 8 is wrong. Straight up.
Okay.
It is. That 2016 Clemson team was not bad, but they also played every game within 7 points in the ACC that year.
Yeah, I know. I could probably.
I personally thought the 2021 Georgia team was better than the 22 team. But
from recent memory,
it's so close.
It really seemed like 2022, they kind of just walloped everybody from on the top of my head, and I'd have to go back and look.
They did. There was a lot of similarities between the 21 team personnel.
That was my first four. Like when I look at those four teams, and you could flip flop some of them.
Forget about that 18 Clemson team, man.
All four of those teams I just put on my top four. Literally walloped everybody. Clemson won the national title against Alabama that year by 30 or something like that.
It wasn't close.
So that's my factor. My first one was who's undefeated, who pretty much just cakewalk through their entire schedule. And then 1 and 2, I feel like we go back and forth all the time on those two teams, like who was the most talented. And I'm basing it off of NFL talent right now because it's just in recent memory. You have, Chase, Burrow, Jefferson on that Alabama team. You have Smith, Mac Jones, and, those other receivers that I'm for some reason forgetting, Najee Harris, just to name a few. Maybe a little recency bias on Michigan at 6. Maybe we look into that a couple years from now.
I don't necessarily think you have them too high. I just think what's behind them is, I don't know. I can see the 2017 and 2022 Georgia Alabama's flipping and Michigan move up a little bit. I don't know. That's where I see it. I think the 21 team for Georgia was better than the 22 team. I think Clemson and 16 was a little lower. I don't know. You'll see on mine, but I think we have the same 1-2 and the same 10. No, we don't have the same 10. Sorry.
Maybe college football wasn't as, because I know that Alabama team that beat Georgia in 21 was really good, but I don't know. Undefeated is kind of was my priority.
Fair enough. So, it's hard to think back that all the way in 2014, Ohio State's only on this list once. I imagine we'll go to my list next, which has significant differences that I don't think people will be too happy with. But I have my reasons, and I'm ready to go. I think everybody had 2019 LSU. That's going to be a collective yes from the crowd as well.
This is clickbait, by the way.
This is not clickbait. I truly believe this to my core.
Okay.
The 2020 Alabama team at dead last?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not giving a team that has a season full of opt-outs where everybody else played 7 games and they get a full schedule.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of fair, but they did light the world on fire.
They did light the world on fire, but half the season, nobody was playing. We had teams
opt out. They were winning the night. They were going 13-0. If they played every game, it doesn't even matter. They were going 13-0 if there was no
illness. The SEC is the only one that played like a realistic football schedule that year. So I can't say that they're, you go through so many different things when you're playing a full schedule, and that's team-wise. You find out so many more, like their non-cons and things like that all got screwed up. So I can't put them up there. That was my reasoning behind it. It was like it's like any 2020 champion, like in the NHL, the bubble champion. You kind of put an asterisk next to it because there's no fandom there.
Yeah, the Blackhawks made the playoff that year, so let's not take too much.
Sorry, LeBron fans, it doesn't count.
Yeah,
the Disney bubble, the Disney ring.
The NBA really messed it up with all that Zoom in the background, like that was doing anything. Hey, Reese is in here. Reese, just in time to chop it up at my list here,
Hey.
but I put 2017 Alabama at 2. Dude, I think people are underrating how good that football team was. That's a team with Jalen Hurts. Tua was on that team as well. And you got Devontae Smith. Like, that team was loaded, and they beat an incredibly good Georgia team in the national title. Jake Fromm, one of the best quarterbacks in Georgia football history. Listen to the backfield that Georgia had that year that 2017 Alabama team beat. Stoney Michel, DeAndre Swift, and Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
That
they were disgusting.
Alabama team in
They're
17 was loaded to beat that team. So I think that's one of the best college football teams of all time. 2023, that is definitely a recency bias, but with the jump that defense made, no. With the how good that defense was? It's the number one defense in the country for good reason.
Are we gonna look back in 10 years?
That 18 Clemson defense might have been better too. It's close.
Are we gonna look back in 10 years at that Michigan offense? And are we gonna be able to, is it gonna be like a quiz? Like we're sitting in the basement drinking beers and you're like, name me 3 starters on that Michigan offense that won the title in 23. Do you think we could do it?
I think we could. A lot of people
You'll be able to
won't.
name, you'll be able to name
I
at least
feel like
2
I'm gonna
2
forget.
for sure.
Dude,
yeah,
Roman
flat
Wilson
out.
is teeing up the Senior Bowl right now too. Like, that guy's a stud. He's going to be a household name on Sundays too. He's a beast.
Like you're
I
telling
wasn't
me,
done. What the hell? I went through
Oh, you
like
want me
3 on my
back up?
list. Yeah, what
I
the
didn't know
hell,
how
man?
far you were
I went
going
through
down
like 3. No, I got my reasons here. I have a very questionable list considered to everybody else's. Like 2017 Bama was like 7 through 10 on everybody else's list. 2020 Bama, I said short season. Plus, they gave up 20 points per game. It's one of the highest out of all the teams on this list. And then young Jordan Davis in 21, who didn't really make that big of an impact for that Georgia team. That's why I put the 22 team ahead of him. It was really a lot of the same personnel. So I think Georgia was just an overall better and more experienced team in 22, but they were both dominant forces in college football. The 2018 Clemson team, damn right, JP. Not enough people put respect on that name. That team was loaded. Trevor Lawrence barely lost in college ever. ETN, that team was stacked, and those are obviously household names on Sundays. 2014, you guys are forgetting how good that Ohio State team was. That was too long ago for maybe people remember. That was the Cardale Jones show after JT Barrett went down. And I think a name that gets lost in the sauce now. Ezekiel Elliott, Curtis Samuel on the outside, household Sunday name now. Like, that team was loaded too, and they were really good.
I thought like quarterbacks were in my argument too, and I was like, well, Cardale Jones and JT Barrett, that didn't really pan out like we thought it was going to.
It didn't, but the fact that Cardale Jones did what he did in the situation that team was in was incredible. And then 2016, Deshaun Watson, he may not be a good human, but that team was stacked as well. Here's a name I'll throw out on the defensive side of the ball for that. Ben Bolumer, however you want to say it. That guy was a monster on that team. You guys remember that player?
Yeah, he's the one that got a tattoo of the national title trophy on his Achilles because they said that linebacking core was the Achilles heel of that Clemson team. Look it up.
Yeah, that's a fun fact. Look it up. I like that. That's a fun fact. And then 2015 Alabama. I don't know, man. 2015 Alabama, nothing jumped off the page at me for them. Jake Coker at quarterback. Like, there's so many better and bigger names on this list that I think those teams were overall better. So that's my list, and now I'm done breaking it down. But I had a lot of discrepancies to most, and I think Michigan is where they should be on that list. That defense was elite. But a lot of those defenses I noticed were number 1 overall in the country for almost all those teams that were at the top of that list for everybody. So defense wins championships, and that stands to be true. All right, JP, take us through yours.
Yeah, I'll be pretty quick with mine. We're running kind of long here. But LSU Alabama, I think, is copy paste here for most situations other than what Parks had on his. I think that 21 team was better for Georgia than the 22 team. That's pure opinion based. I think you could flip them into, like, put that 21 team in 22 and that 22 team in 21. They both win national titles. 18 Clemson. Again, I think that team was very good. That team was blowing everybody out of the water. A better defense than you remember. One of the better quarterbacks outside of, I'd put Lawrence at 2 and quarterbacks on this list, period. Right behind Joe Burrow.
Put him at 1. I'm putting him at 1. He was the best college quarterback on this list. He was incredible.
But if we're taking 1 year from these guys, nobody's taking
1 year. But
yeah, well, that's what we're doing here, Jake. Last 10 national champions, not last 10 careers.
Hey,
okay.
Got him.
That's all I'm saying. 17 Alabama, I do think was a very stout team. That was your classic Saban team that just knew how to win football games, right? Like they went through a lot of adversity on the quarterback side. Parks touched on, and they were good defensively again. That's just a team. That's to me, that is just the Alabama team. If you're gonna look at Saban teams throughout the years, that 17 team is 100% on there. 23 Michigan, I think they're good, but if you take them offensively against some of these other teams, I just don't think they are as talented. It'd be a lot tougher for them to go up against some of those defenses on the list. 14 Ohio State, I have up there pretty high. Even as a 4 seed, like they were, that was a really talented team that had a slip up early in the year against Virginia Tech, if you guys can remember. But it was the kind of the birth of like the college football playoff and what everybody thought parity was. Just kidding. That's a brand name and a blue blood that won a national title that year, everybody. Happy we had the 14 playoff, changed everything for us. In 2015, this Alabama team, again, solid, but not world beaters by any means. On this scale, they were very good. They were world beaters that year, but compared to the rest of the scale here. And then 16 16 Clemson, sorry.
Close.
That's a team, both Tigers. That's a team that they scraped by most of the year, right? And then they won the big ones when they needed to. It was a ton of fun to watch that team, and everybody was rooting for them that year. But it was a team that got in a lot of dogfights throughout the year. So, and again, it's not recency bias for the ACC. The ACC was a lot tougher back then in some spots. So that's my 10. I don't know if you guys have any one that you want to nitpick on that, but I think that's.
I don't have any gripes with this list. At 8, is that the Ohio State year where I'm trying to think? Was that the JT Barrett year where he like got folded against Michigan and it didn't look like he got it on that 4th down? Like that team, did they scrape their way into that national title?
That was 16. That was just 16 that happened, and I swear to you, he got that first down. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I do think he did. I thought he got it.
Sure when
live, I remember watching. I go, I'm pretty sure he got that. But yeah, that's not the same team, but it is. That was the difference between Ohio State and Michigan getting in the playoff that year. So that's my 10 here. Reese, we'll pull yours up here. What do you think? Give it a little rip here. Just put you into the fire.
Give it a little rip.
Away. Give it a little rip.
Yeah. Go ahead. Pull it up for me. I'm waiting.
No, it takes.
Show me the money.
What do you think? This
Show me
coming in hostile.
Here we go. Yeah, I think did everybody have LSU as the number 1?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Who did?
Yes. No, just
Okay,
2
good.
is different.
Good
2
job,
is different.
guys.
Everybody had active. Everybody could have college football playoffs out of their top 4. Nobody had repeat teams in their top 4. That's it. That would be a fun.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, everything you guys have said, obviously. LSU was phenomenal that year. Joey B and the wideouts he had, Thaddeus Moss, and that defense was also very stout. Alabama shortened season, but they were also phenomenal. And then I just got to put the Georgia team. I think 2016 Clemson team was also fantastic, but I got to put the 2 Georgias above Michigan just because I think if Georgia even got in this year, I think they could have put up a little better fight against this Michigan team who was just kind of dominant on the offensive line, defensive line. Yeah, exactly. And like these 2 Georgia teams, I guess not the 22 team, but that 21 team went and played a Michigan team who had kind of the same style of what they were doing and handled them. So I kind of like them. And then I'm not going to lie, 7 through 10, I didn't remember a whole lot about these teams. I wasn't able to look much up because I've had a day.
You're new.
I've had a day over here in upstate New York, and it's not been an easy one. So I was like, I'm just going to throw these out there because I really don't remember much about those 4 teams. I know those teams, obviously they won it, but that's where I got there. I just think it would be hard to leave the Georgia teams out of your top 5 because of how dominant you won 29 straight football games, 2 national titles in that year. Like those teams were obviously pretty dominant. And that LSU team was also just an extreme joy and fun to watch. And they also had like one of the videos of the century of Get the Gat in the White House too. So you can't leave those guys out. So
I think that's fair.
I'm going to give you a pass on leaving the 18 Clemson team under the 16 one.
Yeah.
You said you had a hell of a day.
So
I really didn't remember much about those teams.
And you're new. You're new. We're breaking you into the sport, man.